Alright, this is another texture exporting from Blender to BeamNG. This will be short. We'll just use one of the developer maps. If you go into the user folder in levels, well, there's only this one map in here. So we'll use one that is not in there to show you how to do this. Hit F11 and let me do this like this here so you can see what's going on. See, when you save level, when you load a developer level, right, and you hit save, it's going to create a user folder in here for that same level, and in there there's like an art folder. In that art folder is where you're going to put your thing you export from Blender so that it goes in there with nothing else, right? That's what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing there. So this box, we'll give it a texture, and like I said, never use that. Always make sure to change that name. I mean, it don't matter what you name it. Just don't start it with a number. Don't start it with a number. Right? And don't put a number at the end of this. Alright. Now, if you're going to put a material on here, not just a color, the only thing out of all this stuff that you have to do is just the base color. That's the only thing I know of the game will read when it makes a texture. I'll just throw that on there. That'll be good. Now, we'll look where we're exporting it. Export DAE. Thing you created in Blender. So off it goes. Now in the game, go to the asset browser, thing you exported from Blender, and there it is, just like that. Where things will go wrong. Things will go wrong if you make a procedural texture. If you for example, use a texture that's procedural in nature. It's right. Just for contrast, this is what a texture looks like that BeamNG. That's all Beam will do, right? So if you got a texture and it's procedurally made, right? Let me get a real complicated one. One of these that's, yeah, you can forget BeamNG putting that in the game, even though you can see it in here as you know, this pretty cube. You can forget that. It's not going to happen. Alright, I'll show you what I mean. We'll call this cube 2. And the texture, well, alright, now like I said, if you're making something for Beam, make a new folder, and when you export, now you can put a folder in a folder, right? You can do that. But anyway, so this is where this one's going. and then you'll see that it's not going to work. I will shit a golden brick if it works, but I'm pretty about 99% sure it ain't gonna work. Alright, let's refresh the directory. Other thing you created in Blender. See, you ain't getting none of that stuff. You can go to Material Editor. Ain't nothing come over from Blender. None of that stuff. And clearly you can see all these different surfaces and all this different stuff is yeah, none of that stuff goes. So you'd have to actually bake the texture, which you can do. You can bake it. You'd have to be in Cycles Render Engine and use CPU or GPU compute, for example, and you would more or less, depending on how it's unwrapped, which let's do it like this. So we unwrap it, right? And we'll duplicate it. Now the duplicate will remove the texture. The first one that's got the actual texture will hide it. We'll tell it to be bounds. The second one, the one that doesn't have the texture, we'll go to shading and tell it to have a new texture, the one that Beam will read, and we'll just give it a image. We don't need well, we may need an alpha channel, I'm not sure. We'll just do 1024 by 1024. Now the first one, the cube, the one with all this fancy stuff, we'll select it first and we'll hold shift and we'll pick the second one. And with the second one selected, with this new material, we select that. And then over here where you select the Cycles Render Engine, down at the bottom you'll see Bake. We'll bake it combined. You can bake others, but just for simplicity we'll just do combined. We're going to check box this, put 0.1 here, and bake. And what we'll get over here is more or less a photocopy of what the image looked like with the textures, but it ain't gonna look as good. It'll look okay, maybe. Yeah, see, so, and you can connect that to that and see what it would look like in Beam. Now that's low resolution. By all means, you can do much higher resolution. It'll look a lot better. Take a little longer to render, but if you make sure your render samples are not 4096 like it defaults, it will not take as long. It may not look as good, but it will not take as long. Well, I guess I should have hit enter, shouldn't I? Or I should have hit OK. I thought that was awfully fast to be 4K. Hey, you'll have to excuse the construction sounds. I am building a render farm outside. 1,000 computers on the way from NVIDIA. Now they're repaving our road out there. That's all. Let me tell you how smart my brother-in-law is. He lives here too. You know, when they prepare a road to be newly paved, repaved, they have to first scrape the old road off. And it leaves these really big ruts in the road. Basically like it scratches the old asphalt off. It makes it very rough so that when they put the new asphalt down, it has something like it makes it stay better, you know what I mean? Well, this is a multi-day project, but the first day they managed to get all the stuff off the road. And then the weekend came. My brother-in-law was outside on the front porch talking to his sister. And he says, you know, they didn't really do a good job at paving that road, did they? She said, they're not done yet, dummy. He said, oh, I was going to say, they didn't do that good a job. Yeah. See, this 4K stuff takes a while, man. It takes a while. And these procedural textures take even longer, right? Alright, so. Oh, this, by the way, is Blender Kit. It's a free add-on. They got all the materials and stuff you can use. This is what I use a lot. And finally, we got a lot nicer texture. Alright, back to that folder again. We'll make another folder. Since that was actually a texture of ice, I'll just call this ice box. Now, that's where we're going to save this new image that we just baked here. Icebox. And we'll just call it color. Color map, you know. We'll make it a JPEG and 100% quality. Now, I'm not going to go through all these, but I will do the normals also, because that helps it look better. Just when you bake normals, you need to change this color space to linear. And it's the same thing, except we're only going to do 1024. I ain't waiting again all day. We don't need an alpha channel for that. And bake. You can also bake roughness, ambient occlusion, and that's our normals. I thought I sold that son of a bitch to be linear. I know I did. That's dark. Linear is a lot lighter purple. That's what you should bake when you bake normals. You'll see the difference. Yeah, see how that's a light purple? That's what it's supposed to be. Alright, so normals. And linear. He likes to keep swapping that. Gotta be careful about that. Alright. Now, we are done with this high detailed one. So we'll get our new cube, our ice cube here, and we'll export it into its own little folder, like we did the others. Ice box, ice cube, no matter. Alright. Refresh that directory. Alright. Oh yeah. If you get this here, I forgot. When you bake, damn thing, I don't know why it doesn't. When you bake, it does an auto map. You have to remove the one that's not being used. Beam won't use 2 UV maps. You have to have just one in there. And that'll fix that. Alright, so this is our ice box, ice cube, whatever. And I don't know if you can tell, but we'll stick the normals in there. You can see how that give it a little more. Wow, you can really tell them normals are only 1024. Oh, don't forget to turn on your anisotropic filtering. You can do little things, you know. You don't want to have to spend a lot of time baking a lot of textures. You can do little tricks like put that into reflectivity map, turn on like level, you know, and do some little stuff kind of like that, you know. Kind of make it a little. You know. But no, that's basically how you would do a procedural texture. You got to bake it, and there's lots of there's lots of things you can bake. I just did a couple things out of there. Um, so yeah, that's about it really. Oh yeah, when you import in something, hit the tilde key. Um, and you see, well, yellow is not an error. You look for red. If you have an error, your texture didn't appear, look for the red writing. I hate when it does that shit. When it does that damn shit there. Puts that damn O2 in front of it. Oh, yeah. Still doing it. All right. Yeah, when I make things in Blender, I try to like if I do multiple things, I usually try to just do a new project because there's certain things that keep in memory, and when it comes to textures and things, a lot of times you'll get duplicate names, and then it'll put a 001 or 002 after the texture, and Beam shits on itself when it gets that. As you can see, it just don't like that at all. So that's why I just made sure I loaded the one without that in it, and it solved that issue. But yeah, that's about it. That's about it. I'm sure this won't be the last time I explain this stuff. Oh, I know somebody's going to say, where's the damn collisions? I go right through the object. Well, the easiest thing is to just select the object and tell it to be visible mesh final and rebuild the collisions. We're like, well, what about visible mesh? No, don't use that. Don't use that unless you just want to give away performance. See, it tells you right here. Mesh is using visible mesh collision. If that is intentional, please switch. See, it's a performance warning. Use that one instead. Oh yeah, don't forget to save your material after you do. Oh, here's another little thing you can do. Go additional info. You can tell it to be mud. Rebuild collisions. Right. Just don't forget to rebuild them collisions. Or any of these. was trying to think, somebody else asked something else just a minute ago in the comments. Let's see if I could also get to that. What was it? Oh yeah, there it is. Can't turn on the fire. Alright, so what I did to do that, that's just a trick. That's a smoke and mirrors effect. That's all that is. Go into the options and go to controls, gameplay, and if you scroll down, you'll see ignite car, ignite vehicle, explode. Now you see they're unassigned by default. You can assign these to be different things, like clutch, for example, or you know what, better yet, let's do this. Letter Z. You can also do explode. Make it also letter Z if you wanted to. And so when you're in the game, all you do is just hit letter Z, and the car explodes, catches fire, right? So when the car goes through the mod of the fire, all it basically is doing is, you know, hey, I was just trying to get a little bitty damn fire particle. Shit, I thought it was. Oh, I know it's 27. I was like, what in the hell? What in the hell, man? Particle 27. Just wanted a little fire. That's it. Just for this little example. Just for this little example. Now, I know that's not the mod, right? Yeah. But that's all it basically was doing in the video. Just hitting a hotkey.